Okay, for this question, you have to set up the hypothesis, determine the null. We know that the average delivery time for orders is under 44 minutes, but under 44 means less than. Remember, less than or greater than has to go on the bottom. So the top one automatically is greater than or equal to. So what that means is less than means a left tail test. So we are going to do a left tail test, and we need to calculate the test statistics. So to do that, we need to do 40.3 minus 44 divided by the standard deviation divided by the square root of n, which is 42. So if you put that in your calculator, you end up getting on the top negative 3.7. Divide that by the bottom, and you end up getting negative 2.22 for the test statistic. Now, if you look up the critical value of z when alpha is 0.01 for a right tail test, the critical value would be 2.33. It's a left-tailed test, I'm sorry. So negative 2.33. If it's left-tailed, it's negative. So if it's in this area, we would reject it. But as you see, negative 2.22 would be somewhere over here to the right. So our test statistic does not fall in the critical area. So we cannot reject it because it's greater than, it's to the right of it. Now, for the p-value, if you look up negative 2.22 in your table, you will get 0.013. Same table we've been using for your critical z value. You look at this table, and then for your probability, you would look at this table, negative 2.33. And you get 0.0099. I think I looked at the wrong value. Let me go back. Our test statistic is negative 2.22, so 0.0132. 0.013. Question number 7, you can see that the average customer is 36 or less, so less than or equal to 36, which makes our alternate greater than, which is a right tail test. So we have to do our test statistic, and we know that that would be 39.7 is our mean minus our null. And then our standard deviation is 9 divided by the square root of 39. So our test statistic is 2.57, and this is a right tail test. If you look up alpha 0.10, a right tail test, our critical value is going to be 1.28. So if it's greater than that, we're going to reject it, and 2.57, our test statistic would be greater than. So it is in the rejection area. Now, if you look up the p-value, a quick way to do it is you can look up negative 1.28 and get the exact p-value, or you can look up 1.28, get that p-value, and I believe it was 0.9949. So 1 minus 0.9949, and you end up getting 0.005 when you round. Okay, for this one, we see that the average credit card debt is 4,100, so equals to and not equals to. So this is a two-tailed test. So first, let's get our test statistic. So we know that the mean is, let's see, this is question number 8. 4450 minus 4100 divided by the standard deviation, which was found to be 1300, divided by the square root of n, which was 40. So once you work all that out, your test statistic is 1.70. And then if you look up your critical value, it's a two-tailed test, so we have to take alpha and divide it by 2, so 0.05. And so when we do our two-tailed test, the critical value is, I believe, 1.65 and negative 1.65. So our test statistic, if it's not in between these two values, we're going to reject it. So our test statistic would be over here. So we are going to reject because it doesn't fall within here. We reject. Now the p-value, if you look up negative 1.65, I believe you get 0.004. And then, that's not right. Let's see what our critical value is. So our critical value is, if you look it up, 1.70. You could do negative 1, so 0.0446. So 0.0446 times 2, because remember we have this side here. If this is our test statistic, negative 1.70, if we look it up, we got 0.0. I can't remember what it was. I keep doing that. Point 0.0446. So 0.0446, here's 1.70. That would be that, and then over here would be 0.0446. So if you add those up or times it by 2, that's how you get 0.089 when you round. And then for question number 9, it's equal, not equal to 5. So this is a two-tailed test. So for our Z test statistic, we do the mean minus the null over the standard deviation divided by the square root of n. Now when you're doing this in your calculator, you need to do parentheses around the top divided by parentheses around the bottom. So when you put this in your calculator, you end up getting, I believe it's 1.57 for your test statistic, and then it's a two-tailed test, and alpha is 0.01, divide that by 2, so we need to look up alpha is 0.005 to get our critical values, and I believe it's negative 2.58 and positive 2.58. So our number, our test statistic is in between here. So it falls in between them. If it was in the shaded area, we would reject it, but since it falls in between them, we will not reject it. Now, when you look up the p-value, if you look up negative 2.58, this value, this probability under this curve is 0.0582, which means that this is also 0.0582. When you look up negative 1.57, make sure you're looking up your test statistic when you go to your table and not your critical value, because I continue to do that. But you want to know the area for the test statistic. So when you do 0.058 times 2 or 0.0582 times 2, you round it to 3 decimal places and you get 0.116. And that is all of section 9.2.